Connecting the dots, Toastmaster Kritiman.
While we are all trailblazers and looking forward to the future, let me take a moment and take you to the past. Has there been a situation in your life when you felt hell is falling upon you, only to realize later that it was the best thing that could have happened in your life? Dear Toastmasters and dear guest, today I'm going to tell you my story of connecting the dots. The idea that I stole from Steve Jobs. In life, whatever you do, you make dots. And these dots would not seem to connect looking forward. But if you look at it backward, it would all seem to fall in place. I was born in a small city called Saharsa in northeastern part of India. My father was a businessman who dealt in medicine. And as a child, I wanted to become a businessman like him. My father had different plans. He wanted us kids to graduate before we take up any profession. It didn't make sense to me, but apparently he couldn't fulfill his wish of becoming graduate as he has to join his father's business. He passed it on to us. Saharsa didn't have good schools, so I was sent to a boarding school. But fortunately for me, my elder brother was also in the same school. The settling in was easy. Those days, there were no mobile phones, and we were dependent on letters for communication. With time, the content of the letter became monotonous, always talking of how the studies were on, what's the weather about, and so on and so forth. And I had lost interest in the letters. But soon I realized there was something different that came with each letter, and it was the stamps. I developed the hobby of philately, the hobby of collecting stamps. And whenever the next letter came, it always excited me. So even if the envelope were not opened, the stamp would be pulled out to perfection. And by the time I was in class 10, I had heaps of stamps. By now, my elder brother had grown up to become a senior forest officer, which meant my father business was all mine. But he offered me to join him in his city and continue my education. I gladly accepted my brother's request, but the school would not have me as I was 2% short of the cutoff marks. But the admission department told us that the 2% could be waived off if I had a hobby, and philately was on the list. So I made to the school. When I look back, had I not gone to the boarding school and developed philately as hobby, I might not have made to one of the finest schools in the country. At the new school, I made new friends who were ambitious. Some wanted to become doctor, other software engineer. But by now, my ambition had changed. I wanted to become an officer like my brother. But there was a friend of mine who introduced me to the idea of becoming a software engineer from IIT, which is one of the premium institute of country, saying that a software engineer earns much more than an officer, and he had my interest. So I started doing what he did, started eating what he ate, and started reading what he read. But just before examination, I was diagnosed with typhoid. I wrote the examination under typhoid, and every time I rushed to the washroom, I knew I was also flushing a question which I could have attempted. Very sure that I would not be clearing the examination, I still opened the result to check I managed to pass. It was just a passing score. And the university would not offer me software engineering. So all my dream came crashing upon me. The only option that I was left with was to take architecture at the university, which I had to accept. Next 4 years, I did not know what I was doing. I knew the best job would be taken by the software engineers. It was year 2008 and recession just hit. There were no jobs for software engineers. And the only company that came to our campus was construction company looking for architects because apparently buildings never stops to be built. When I look back, had I not caught typhoid and been left to take architecture, I would not have landed at the job much before my friends did. So, dear Trailblazer, with that, I leave you with a thought. Try to look back at the dots that you have made in your life and it connect it backward and it will start to make sense. Thank you. Over to you, Tia Modi.